Hello and welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabala, your host for tonight. Let's have a look at today's front page of Namibian Sun. Today, we are joined by the men that I've been looking for the past 5 months with no success. But today, I made a breakthrough to get the mayor of Windhoek, Dr. Job Mpanda, on the show. Chief, How did I do to you?
It's tough, man. It's tough.
Is it tough?
We've been maintaining what the economics call shock therapy.
Yeah.
Shock therapy means you really embarked on a program that shocks people. So you need to do some sort of. Sometimes you give counseling before that I'm going to electrocute you,
Yeah.
or sometimes you do the counseling afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're doing a shock therapy because obviously after the results, the whole system couldn't still accept and understand that the capital city is no longer in the control of the regime.
Yeah.
And like you speak to some people, they are still nostalgic. They still they can't understand. So some of them want to speak to you.
Yeah.
They are minister or they are directors, but they don't know what to say because either they never thought something like this would happen, or they used to say a lot of things to you, and so we've been going to them and saying, no, just relax, man. Yes, it's true we are in charge. We have a NOPKIRI, but we have not decided to hit you yet. So, but we can hit you if we want to hit you. So shock therapy, you calm people down and you get them to accept the new realities of the time, and it's going to be the new reality for the next 5 years. So it is a tedious exercise. So to calm people down and so that, because you see when there's a person who's shocked, who can't accept, it's like a guy who was 100% in love with a girlfriend, and then the girlfriend pulls the plug. And that guy will not go to work. He will be driving to the girl's place and doing all sorts of things. That's really what these people have been doing in a state of shock. Some of them did not take their own responsibility, so they did not know what we... So we were telling them, we will come for you, make no mistake, but we are human beings. We recognize your dignity, we recognize your humanity, and that is now what we are calling shock therapy. You tell people that, yes, change is coming, but it's not harmful change. It is also change for the better, even for yourself. If I give you an example, when we disconnected the services, the electricity to various government ministries, so it was still a shock because the system did not understand that something like that could happen. But this is what happened, what came out of that. What came out of that is that the Ministry of Agriculture didn't pay. And it so happened that the entire government park, so the entire government park was using 1 meter. So when we punished agriculture, it's in Shiwambo there's a word that says shanya umosha tukitho enji. So if you pass, we are all going to be suspect. No one will know. You see where is the smell. Of course, people who are conscious will probably think it's Toivo because they know you like eating a lot of nast,
beans.
beans and things like that, and they know I don't eat that, so they will easily suspect that it's you.
Yeah.
But what actually happened out of that exercise is that the government actually realizes that no, we can't have a situation where you only have 1 meter for the entire government park building, because some of them were in presentation, and the minister was saying, in the middle, doof, it's dark. But the positive out of that, of course, is shock. And then they have been warned. Letters have been coming, reasonable. It's not just somebody who wake up to think it's fun.
Yeah.
They've been warned, they've been communicated to, and after that, some reasonable ones called and said, what is happening? I say, no, it's just the implementation of a credit policy and debt management policies. So there's nothing untoward. But immediately after that, government realizes that the situation at government park cannot continue. So they're going to have meter for each and every entity, so that the person who have paid is not held into. So I'm just trying to give you a context of shock therapy as an exercise that we've been doing for the past 3 months. To be able to tell people that we are here and we're going to be here for quite a long time, but we don't have anything personal against you. We just want to make sure there's no umbrellas in what is the basic explanation of umbrella? Umbrella is
it's anarchy, basically.
Not necessarily anarchy. Yes, there's a component of anarchy, but there is just what happens in Sodom and Gomorrah. Like an orgy, a lot of things happening. Ovusu, that has been the window that we were just telling them that we don't want that umbrella thing to continue, but it's not personal against you. And so the government learned immediately after that to say, so it's also a good opportunity for us to learn to do things better, And as an example, Nampower also get courage. And he sent out a brave advert to say, hey, we're going to cut. And you know that we must have a country that is straight, that's very clear in terms of the direction that is going, not a country that is zigzagging. And in the period we took over, in this period of shock therapy, we realized that a lot of Namibians have confidence. 40% of the problems that come to me in the city as mayor has nothing to do with the city. If somebody was saying, no, my family, we were a family of 5, and this person now wants to sell the house. It has nothing to do with the municipality. And people are complaining about government services, so we now provide spiritual guidance also to the residents, because there's no leadership in the country. Of course, we're not talking about body count or a person. If there are chaos in Namibian Sun, there is a physical editor, but there's no editor. So there is a serious chaos in the country, and people are completely hopeless. So in this episode of shock therapy, we were also providing orientation. That is why you couldn't get hold of me.
That's why I couldn't get hold of you. Okay. So you can state on record that you going after the ministries that you went after was strictly a principle of business for the city, and not because people were suspecting, Job is now getting into this politics of vengeance and whatnot, or trying to humiliate his detractors. You could state on record that was not the...
No, but I think, in fact, for us to generally, there is a saying that the highest tree catches most wind. So there is no way a shrub would catch most wind. The tallest tree would always catch most wind, because when the wind comes, it catches. You can even see that when the tree is moving, because the wind is catching it because it's the tallest. So we accept that in our society, particularly in a society that has no direction, those of us that are providing direction to the country, those of us that are providing hope and determination and giving a clear direction of where the country must go, would always attract a lot of commentary, would always attract a lot of views. Even if I assure you now, so when I walk out of this building, something would happen, because the city is a dynamic place. They will still have opinions. So we are opinion makers. Some of us are provocative in terms of public discourse. So by me appearing in ShopRite, for instance, just for shopping, another person would think that I came to talk to the managers to pay the workers. You know, another person would think otherwise. So just by your mere presence, I went to State House driving one of my small cars.
Yeah.
So when I went in there, the taxi, the policeman was stopping
Yeah.
and saying, hey, because obviously it's Donkey Botswana, and Donkey Botswanas don't go to, it's seen as a taxi. So in the understanding and the imagination of a police officer working at State House, they couldn't understand. They would say, hey, stop. So I put my head out. Oh, they say, oh, Nkulunu, come here. And then he started telling me about his problems as police officers, that they also need to get their money before they turn 60 so that they can build houses, even at 55. So the police officers entered into a conversation with me on GIPF and the struggle that we're pursuing there. So because by our very nature of activism, and activism, we always attract opinion. So I can't be now and then going around assuring people because they have opinion. But what I can explain to you is that let's look at the result. What has been the result of the program of action that we took? The result is that we were able to pay NamPower and have a zero balance, something that has not happened in 30 years. And in fact, the managing director of NamPower called me personally on the phone to appreciate, because to them this is something that has never happened in quite a long time. And he also followed it up with a letter to indicate that they really appreciate a gesture like that. And then it gives them strength and confidence that that's why you see the notices that they are going now, that other towns must be able to pay. And of course, we are sympathetic to other towns. We want to be able to provide leadership to other towns. But we are unfortunately just elected for Windhoek. But we're thinking of what is the best model to be able to help some of those other towns. Because some towns just need computers. And there's maybe 100 computers in Windhoek. We could give 5 to Okahao. We could give 5 to Rundu. We could give 5 to Malta here. We could give some dustbins to some of those places as a capital city. What I'm trying to explain to you is that it is not important to say some people are saying you is a revenge and things like that, but the result is that you, even as a resident, can be proud of your city, that your city is led, your city has direction, your city is able to handle and provide direction and take responsibilities, so that we can also motivate others in terms of taking responsibility. What people think, or the intention of it, we're not concerned about what they think is the reason why we did what we did. What we are concerned about is result. Because the thing with tactical sophistication has to do with management by objectives. So you develop the objective, you set them there, and you develop a strategy. And for you to move from your objective, from the strategy, from what you have set to achieve, and to actually meet your objective, the path there,
the strategy now,
there is tactical sophistication. So you must be very sophisticated. At what point, at what time do you strike? So Chu says that when the enemy advances, you retreat. And when you retreat, you don't retreat because you are a coward. Because you need to live to fight another day. And then obviously when you need to be able to know when to advance. And when first they thought it a joke. And we had a very clear strategy. There was a first bunch of disconnection. There was going to be a second bunch of disconnection, and a third bunch like that. And the result is that those that were disconnected paid, and those that were in the pipeline to pay indeed pay. So we are disciplining them. And discipline has nothing to do with age. So we need to be able to discipline the president. We need to be able to discipline the bishop. We need to be able to discipline the taxi driver. We need to be able to discipline everybody. In fact, as part of this discipline, we would also see that the corrupt machinery and the nepotism network in the city of Windhoek for quite a long time have also been very tactful. Tactful in a sense of even misinterpreting the legal provision. For instance, we have Section 75 of the Local Authority Act that speaks to exemptions of paying property tax. It says clearly the churches and the schools and things like that that are not for profit,
Yes.
or sporting activities, facilities and things like that. But we went to a meeting and there was an application from private schools in this country applying not to pay tax
Yeah.
because they've been doing it before. How can Windhoek Gymnasium, a private school, a private company owned by Curo that is registered in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, apply for not to pay tax when it's one of the most expensive schools? How can Windhoek Afrikaans private school, how can all these private schools applying and misinterpreting deliberately so Section 75 of the local authority? Is a matter that we are dealing with, and we say we're very clear about this. These guys are for profit.
Yes.
So we're also asking the officials, has this thing been happening? Private school, private universities,
Yeah.
applying not to pay tax.
Exactly.
It's a serious scandal. So we discipline them, and also to say that, hey, this thing will not continue like that. So we need to be able to deal with that. And that is a process of disciplining people and providing leadership, that we are a capital city.
Yeah.
And as a capital city, we must give proper direction, proper orientation to our residents as in our country. So it's a very tedious exercise. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
And some people, for instance, think they can just call the mayor because that's what they've been doing for 30 years. And they will say, no, I owe 70,000. I want my bill to be written off. So you respond politely, okay, thank you very much. I think there should be a way for your matter to be attended to.
Yeah.
That's how you respond politely. I think there's a way for your matter to be attended to. Just write a letter to the CEO.
Yeah.
And they write a letter to the CEO, and the CEO refers to the policies of what should happen, and then that way the matter has been attended to. We didn't say so attended to in terms of the institutional mechanism that are in place.
Yeah.
But these gestures that have been made by people, including the corrupt one, who would think sometimes you have not seen this relative of yours. And then he or she gives you a phone call, or a friend of yours that you haven't spoken to in a long time. Man, I need to see you, man.
Yeah.
Then you go, oh, this guy, or this lady, or this guy, you did a lot of things together. When you were young, you used to chase after girls, and you used to drink together, although you don't drink alcohol, but they will be drinking, play soccer, boxing, and things like that. So you go and meet. And as you are at the meeting, and you are there having a conversation, this business guy comes to a table to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And because that's how it is. That's
Yes.
how the 30 years of SWAPO rule in the city of Windhoek is that they go and consult mayors.
Yeah.
When people want to cut off the water, mayor is called. So it's not an easy thing, like how people. So you also need to manage people's emotions, people's expectation, and you also, again, shock therapy. You need now to take people and say, yes, you used to do that in the past. You used to SMS and WhatsApp the mayor, but things have changed now.
Yeah.
You need to go and engage the CEO.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not an easy exercise as many people think. So we're not concerned about what people have to say about, because we are very clear in terms of our program of action.
Indeed. Tell me how the coalition, or the progressive forces, as you call them, working. Is there a difficult terrain also for, particularly yourself, who has always held a very clear idea of how you want Windhoek and the country to be like, and maybe those details are not shared fully with those that you are leading together with? Are there any impediments to your ideas because of the coalition?
Not necessarily. I think one of the definition of politics, it also includes the art of the possible. Of course, it has that aspect of the struggle for power, the consolidation and the exercise of power, or the value definition of politics as the determination of who gets what, where, and how. So we've always been aware that things will not always turn out the way you want them to turn out to be. And for that, again, you need to have management by objective. So the terrain have changed, that we are not 100% in control. So we have to operate within a particular framework. So what changes then is two things. One, you will then have to accommodate the expectations of others. That's one. You also then have to channel your expectation and objectives through a platform of a collective engagement. So then you enter into a bargaining, negotiation, engagement. But for us, it has been quite useful because it assists us to sharpen our ideas. It assists us to sharpen our ability to convince others. Because under normal circumstances, in fact, in that process of a coalition, for instance, you would have ideas, and then in the process of debating them, you start perfecting.
Yeah.
You start foregoing certain areas, not principal areas, but certain areas of implementation that you probably have not thought of. And that's not, it does not only apply to us, it also applies to others. So you also get an opportunity to be able to engage broadly because you have an added responsibilities for others. So for us, the coalition environment is some sort of quality assurance process. So that the ideas must be contested, the ideas must be engaged, the expectation must be managed, and we debate a lot, and we have a lot of arguments, but ultimately we reach a particular consensus. Under normal circumstances, people don't get an opportunity you just lead your entity. Of course, we are not a political party, but some people are only used to provide leadership to SWAPO or leadership to NUDO. Now, in a coalition context, you must now be able to manage. It's a tedious exercise. So you have your internal contradictions within the AR movement. You achieve that, and you overcome that. And once you have overcome that, you still have 3 more places to stop. You have to stop at PDM and manage that. Maybe it doesn't succeed. Then you have another week again of that engagement. Then you have to go to IPC. Then you have to go to NUDO. But ultimately, once you are able to have consensus and bring everybody else together, you would have an idea that is broadly accepted by everybody. And it gives you a taste and some sort of orientation and understanding on the dynamics of running a diverse country such as Namibia, or a diverse society, or a diverse community such as, because you are sensitive to the needs and the aspiration and the problems and the manner of articulation and conducting oneself when it comes to various constituencies. And you know certain dynamics. But if you were not in a coalition setting, you wouldn't get an opportunity to understand how people think, how people expect. And then once you finish with the with the coalition that is forming a 50+1 majority, you must now come to those that are not part of the coalition. And more so as mayor, you also have an equal responsibility to provide leadership to them. So you must now reconcile what has been agreed with the collective here and with expectation of others who are not part of that formation. And then at that moment, you now need to make sure that once the differences are there, they are ironed out. Even when councillors have differences between and amongst one another, Section 11, Subsection 5 of the Local Authority Act says that you are the principal head of the municipal council. So you also take responsibility in making sure that you deal with individual challenges of councillors, but also with collective challenges of the council itself. So sometimes it has nothing to do with you and what you think. You find yourself in a situation and then you need to provide leadership. And it has nothing to, because by the very nature of the position you are, you get to be taken into terrain and places where you're not, where you didn't imagine. But I think it's a good training ground. We need to be able to make sure, particularly many young men and women with talent and energy should actually get an opportunity to lead in their community, because they are then able to get this internal dynamics. You have some of the fellows in cabinet, or some of the fellows in parliament, because they think this is what actually is important. But because they didn't get opportunity to lead in
Yeah.
places that have various group dynamics.
Yeah.
They lack in most of the areas. That's why many young people are actually, if you go and look at both Parliament and the city of Windhoek, now
Yeah.
Parliament has followed the city of Windhoek, that their parliamentary sessions are also live now on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
But just look at the numbers. The National Assembly on social media, it is probably only 3,000 people watching. In the city of Windhoek, one session alone, we could easily have 30,000 people watching on the individual account. So what is basically happening is that we are redefining the terrain and being able to manage the diversity. People are more concentrating on the differences that people have.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of commonalities among not only the progressive forces, but among all these councillors. All of them are saying we need to be able to deal with the finance of the city and position the city properly. We need to deal effectively with the issues of housing. We need to be able to deal effectively with corruption. So, and I think generally because of the polarizing nature of our politics, that everybody is in their little cubicle. You know, like if you go to Monaco, they have most those, you book a cubicle and you are only there. You don't see what other people are doing there, and you drink. Some of these entrepreneurs, during the Pohamba time, they will be there with 10 girls in that cubicle at Monaco. So there is that approach and orientation to politics, leading from the cubicles.
Yeah.
So, but what has happened is that we no longer lead from the cubicles.
Yeah.
We engage broadly. Yeah, we engage broadly, and once we agree, when a person raises an issue of principle, it doesn't matter where they're coming from. But in the past, the official used to tell us, no, you ask them, but how was this decision? Because remember, the council resolutions are binding and standing, even if you were not there. So we sometimes ask, but how was this resolution passed? And then the official will tell you, no, it was a political decision. But what do you mean a political decision? There's no such vocabulary in terms of our laws.
Yeah.
So that political decision in that lexicon of the city of Windhoek means a decision that is irrational, unreasonable, against advice, but taken because it's in the interest of the politician. For example, you find a document, an item says, the legal opinion of a legal practitioner. This is a mere administrator writing. The legal opinion of Toyvon Jebela legal practitioners be noted and disregarded. And then they take a decision like that. They don't go and say, why must a decision of a legal practitioner be noted and disregarded? They don't articulate. So the city generally has not been in the domain of logic and reasoning. There's been in the domain of taking decision because you are in power, or taking decision because that's what the Central Committee of the ruling party have decided.
One last subject to engage you on briefly. Mayor, what is your obsession with the Minister of Defense? Or what is the problem there?
This is, well, it's from various perspectives. There's a political angle, there's a social justice angle, and there's a national question in those things. Now, the political aspect is that you would see in this contestation is that this fellow is a Minister of Defense. He's not a public relation officer of the
Defense Ministry.
No, not even of defense of government. He's not a PRO, he's not a presidential spokesperson. But he doesn't concentrate on issues of defense. He concentrates on attacking the imaginary so-called enemies of the president in order to amuse because there's this notion in SWAPO, even when we were there, there was always common and say that apparently for the Grootman, what you have to do is just say nice things, attack his imaginary enemies, you will be very happy. And it's a very dangerous notion for our country. The Grootman must not be entertained. The Grootman must be looking at the competences in order for him to appoint people. So Abacha went in that narrative. So we wanted to take him out of that, to say that, look, you are a Minister of Defense. You are not stop entertaining the Grootman and focus on issues of defense. That's the political, because he's been going around attacking the whites, attacking the intellectual us. And he's been writing, and he goes and says a series of things. So we wanted to take him out of that thing, that focus on your work. Stop entertaining the Grootman. So we wanted to take him out of that. Second is that the defense, the defense environment where he operates is now in chaos. That's why this guy, he have written more articles about the opposition. He have never said a single. This is a minister of defense. Our people were killed there in the Zambezi by a foreign defense. But you have never said a single word. Show me a statement on an issue. How can, like, there's chaos in Windhoek, but the mayor is unable to articulate a position? So the Minister of Defense never, ever said a single word on that issue of defense. We even have editors, we even had ministers. And Hengari has been there after enjoying his salad, he would go there messing up. If the defense minister would have taken the country into confidence and addressed the country and saying, this is the issue that we are having, this is the problem that we are having, and this is how the country is responding as a commander. But he's just busy with the politics and Confidente and Max Amat and all those things, and he's not speaking resolutely to give direction to the country. It's unacceptable for us as a country to have a minister of defense who's from a commanding background. But lives will be lost. Foreign entities will even be flying over our territory. I was in Katima comforting the people during just few days because I was exhausted, so I had to relax just there because it was too much. My body, the doctor asked for me to be booked off. But after a third day, I was there comforting the people there because there was an absence of government. But he doesn't, and he's talking about so those things. So it's a very serious problem there. That's the second level. The third thing that we have is really the corrupt nature of Abacha. Abacha is when we say Abacha, we're talking about Vilho because he follows the exact same path of Sani Abacha in Nigeria. He had stolen money and took it in foreign account. He behaved exactly like Abacha. Abacha worked with weak president and he projected himself and he eventually, Nigeria ended up with Abacha as president with disastrous consequences. Only after he had died, the Americans have now been returning the money. So, but Vilho has also been going to Brazil and all these other places to negotiate. Can you imagine he's the only one that went to negotiate and source quotation in Brazil. He only went alone. Where have you had a situation where the quotation comes and then they do all these things? So the problem of corruption in defense, because the parliament has been weakened, the auditor general has been weakened because Abacha just tells them that no, it's in the interest of security. So there is a serious problem of corruption. And there is an old man that came to me. He said, young man, you need to understand defense. And he called me as an elder. And then he was explaining to me, these things have always happened. But then this is apparently the difference between Abacha's corruption and the corruption that has been in defense for quite a long time. And to his credit, and of course I concede and accept that defense ministry have always been corrupt. But this is a difference. What the other generals will do, they will organize the food to come to the table in the room. And they will come in the room and the room will be locked. And the windows will be, make sure that they are, this is an analogy I want you to imagine. Yes. So they will come, these generals will come in the room and around the table and they will eat. And after they will eat, the food is finished and they wash their hands and they wash their chin and things like that. You see in the village when a person has eaten and is cooking, you can see that he was eating. So after that, they wash themselves and they wipe themselves and they get out of the room one by one. Yeah. One by one, and they disperse. That's how they used to loot. And then this is an analogy now the man was explaining. The difference with Abacha is that the food comes in the room, he comes in the room alone, he eats alone, and after he eats alone, he doesn't even wash his hands. The oil is just dripping. So as he walks out there and everybody can not only smell the food that he was eating, they could also see the oil. So the greed of this guy is too much. To an extent that, and if I had an opportunity to meet with President, I would have warned him that there is a serious problem in the defense because the guys are so alarmed because they have now accepted that apparently Abacha is closer to the Grootman. Now, because Abacha is closer to the Grootman, they are afraid of raising the issue, so they keep quiet. What is basically happening is now the people, every day I get a taxi driver who just show up at my office at UNAM. or I go for lunch or so, and then the taxi driver drops an envelope. And we check the envelope, it's the envelopes of invoices. The army is demoralized to an extent that, and it's not, I don't enjoy the fact that the people in the army are now giving information to me to disclose to the country because they see no hope. The Grootman is with Abacha and all those things. Because first, people always thought that is a joke. So we always wait and say when Abacha says something, then we just release an invoice. We were telling some of these guys that Abacha must just stop. Because I have a dossier here, I scan it and I send it to iCloud and all other places so that even if they come and I tell people that if anything happens to me, release the information. Because the Grootman must actually realize what he's doing to the army. Yeah? Because the army is no longer operating cohesively because of Abacha. Because what is happening, even with the issue of sanitizer, I had all the information. So I always sometimes, because this is defense, I want you release a bit so that maybe the Grootman and everybody else can realize there's a problem. What does Abacha do? He releases a statement. No, there's no story of sanitation and things like that. And then we release an invoice. No, there's no what, all those things. Or you say there's a guest house of his friend that he wants to do. No, there is no, the sanitizers standard, because only when we release the document that shows that these Hong Kong sanitizers, because they came today and tomorrow they were red, today they are yellow. Yeah. They are standing there. But Abacha was calling one of the guys at the medical stores, because these things are supplies must now go to the medical stores. Yeah. He was now calling this guy and saying, hey, you must accept this thing. And this is a problem. And you must remember, Toivo, between 2014 and 2015, because I had personal experiences with the corruption of people like Saki and them. Some people used to come to my office and say, this is the information. But of course, they used to tell me that the fishing companies are going to SL Farm to pay, but there was no evidence. So I took a risk and I took on these guys. The Grootman and others were still thinking that, this boy is just talking. And to prove their point, Saki sold me deliberately for 500,000. And then all these people were saying, Job, you must be at the forefront of fishery. They were all quiet. I was paying legal fees. Saki brought 2 advocates on an interlocutory. There's a case, and they set aside 2 million. They've set aside 2 million so that this guy can get out of money. To an extent, the Santam was even refusing to pay my bill. And I told Kadila, we are going to fight this thing. So if I'm going to lose, I'm going to tell the judges that guy is corrupt. So maybe as the case is going to continue, let's maybe just accept. And I told my lawyer, let me just accept, because the guy was a minister of justice and he was in control of everything. To a point where we went to a mediation, because remember when you are sued, the law allows for mediation. So Saki came with Maren de Klerk on the other side, and I was with Kadila on this side. And the mediator was Judge Kobos Miller. Kadila was always concerned about the psychological biasness, because Saki was very powerful. He amended the constitution, and some of the people who are running the judiciary benefited. We now have a judge president at the same time who was a deputy chief justice who preside on both. But it was Saki's making when Saki and Denkop and the Grootman changed the constitution. So Kadila was always warning me about that. Yeah. When you went to the mediation, and Saki began now telling, because the mediation is an opportunity for you to resolve the case. Yes. Saki began now narrating his story, and he said, this individual, now referring to me, this individual, what is still continuing, this individual. Okay, then he finished. The judge never interrupted, he allowed him to speak. And it was now my opportunity. Yeah. I continue in the same line, and I said, this individual, the judge stopped me. Mr. Mupanda, that time I was Mr. Mupanda, what do you mean by this individual? Yeah. But this guy was just calling me this individual. And then Kadila was showing now that's the nature of the bias that the judiciary is and things like that. And it was very tough. Yeah. And everybody thought this boy is just talking, slandering people all over the case and things like that. Then Al Jazeera and all this thing came. But the Grootman had an opportunity to be able to deal with Saki at that moment. So when these things of Abacha gets out of hand, and the Grootman will not be able to say, he's going to act later. He's aware. Yeah. He knows about the sanitation. He knows about all these things. He knows about the uniform tender. He knows about many other things. You know about the Cyprus and all these guys that are this weapon company that are doing. He knows about the uniform.
Yeah.
He knows for sure that the 200 million that was transferred from the ministry to August 26. August 26 never supplied, never provided any service to the ministry. So I was sitting with an audit report, but I can't compromise people who gave me. So when I'm talking about the 200 million, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Because Abacha, yes, we're dealing with Abacha, but the Grootman must not think that he's a commander-in-chief.
Yes.
There is a position, for example, a major general in the army.
Briefly.
Last year.
Briefly.
A major general
Yeah.
is a position that is held by, you must be a serviceman. You must either be head of the armed force, or the army, or the navy, or the air force, or the joint op. So there were 4. So Abacha now created a major general position for his friend by manipulating the Grootman and the CDF. He went to the Grootman and say, the CDF say appoint this one. And then he goes back to the CDF and say, Grootman said appoint. So we have a 5th guy now in the position of major general. Mm-hmm. So when these things of Abacha gets out of hand, we want to tell the Grootman, and he likes your show. I'm sure the Grootman is also watching. Grootman, when these things of Abacha get out of hand, you are not going to be absolved from responsibility, because you have an opportunity to deal with these things. And we are activists, and we are not going to stop activism because we are mayor. So even if I'm removed as mayor, we need to get our country right. And that thing, from those angles that I explained, those 3 aspects, that is the nature of the problem that we are having with Abacha.
Dr. Mpanda, thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
I appreciate it. That is the mayor of Windhoek, Dr. Job Mpanda, filling us in on what has been taking up his time as far as his work is concerned. I hope you enjoyed the show like I did. Good night.